Gaze reading where the greats drop by. Trendy authors tell us all the who, what, and why. Anyone can listen cause we're spoiler free. Gaze reading from Pulitzer stars to book club picks, where the curious minds can get their fix. So you say you're not gay, well that's okay. There's something for everyone. Gaze reading.
Hello and welcome to Gaze Reading. I'm your host, Jason Blitman, and it is a very sad day in the world of books as we lost Edmund White, whom the New York Times aptly called a pioneer of gay literature. If you're not familiar with him, his work carved out space for queer lives on the page with honesty, wit, and unflinching intimacy. Just 3 weeks ago, I had the honor of recording an episode of Gaze Reading with him, where he talks about his latest memoir, The Loves of My Life, and reflected on his legacy. This was supposed to come out in a few weeks, but as a special tribute, I'll be airing the episode tomorrow. On a happier note, on today's episode, I talked to debut author Austen Taylor about her new novel, which is being compared to Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, called Notes on Infinity. And my guest gay reader is Nicola Dinan, who talks to me about what she's been reading, as well as her book, Disappoint Me. Make sure to check out the Gaze Reading Instagram for a special announcement about this book. Both Austen and Nicola's bios are in the show notes. Okay, so we just talked about Instagram. You could also watch this episode over on YouTube. Gaze Reading is on Blue Sky. We're all over the place. And make sure that you're subscribing wherever you get your podcasts so that you'll be the first to know when a new episode drops. And if you haven't heard yet, there's a Gaze Reading Pride guide on a bunch of fabulous books to buy over on the Substack. It's free, and if you're so inclined, you can get a paid subscription for less than the price of a coffee and support this gay indie podcast. There's Gaze Reading merch. I just got my gay reader sweatshirt in the mail. There are A is for Ally t-shirts, a whole bunch of super fun stuff. Make sure to check that out. The links to all of the things you could find in the show notes, but also in the link tree on Instagram. And now please enjoy my conversations with Austen Taylor and Nicola Dinan. There are so many things I am looking forward to talking to you about, including the book, but where is it? Your bio.
Okay.
Like literally it is on the inside cover of the galley. So we're going to start at the very beginning. I haven't even said the title. It's Notes on Infinity. Graduate of Harvard.
Mm-hmm.
Degrees in chemistry and English.
Yep.
A public speaking coach. A private pilot. A Maine guide.
Mm-hmm.
A bassist. I see a bicycle behind you.
Yep.
I see a flourishing plant behind you. I see the bass. And per Instagram, you're about to go to law school. Or you're in law school.
Yeah, I'm about to go to law school. Thanks, Paul.
Girl.
Gotta keep busy.
I am so impressed.
Oh, thank you.
How do you keep it all straight in your brain? I'm asking personally because I need to know. How do you compartmentalize? How do you stay sane?
No, I think it helps me stay sane. I like having a lot of things going on. I'm really excited actually to start law school because I'm sure you have heard many writers say this, but writing can be very isolating. And I've now been writing essentially full time for a little over a year. And I spend a lot of time right here by myself. And my roommate is fantastic. And I'll emerge and she'll know that it's because I'm starved for socialization and I need her to just sit down with me at the dining table and have some tea, have a real human.
Have some tea, spill some tea.
And spill some tea. Yeah, she has to spill tea from the real people that she interacts with every day because I don't interact with anyone.
Right, you're about the outside world.
Exactly. Something someone did today that I didn't make up in my head and right now. And I think law school will be awesome because I will actually have other people. No, but in all seriousness, I think that I love to write about my experiences is too direct. It's not autobiography, but I like to write from the places that I inhabit. And Notes on Infinity is always a lot about Harvard, and that comes from my time there. And so I'm excited to be going and doing a new thing so that I can write about law school.
Eventually write about it.
Exactly. Exactly.
You could probably just do a lot of research.
Yeah.
You don't have to actually go and matriculate.
Oh, no, I think it'll be good. I'm like interested in the law.
Do you like
too.
want to practice law? Do you want to be a lawyer?
So I don't know what exactly that will look like for me. I'm really interested in, so before I started writing, I studied chemistry and English, and I was really interested in like the interface between science and tech and society. So I was interested in like science policy, bioethics. I planned to go to law school actually, and I was admitted and then deferred for like long story, but for health reasons. And while I was on that health related deferral, I started writing, and then the rest is history. But I am still really interested in like science and tech and society, which is also reflected in the book.
Yeah.
And I started writing at the same time ChatGPT emerged. And so I'm really interested in generative AI regulation. And so I'm hoping to, as an attorney, have a little bit more of a seat at the table as we think about guardrails on generative artificial intelligence to protect art and artists.
Oh, fascinating.
So, yeah.
And I imagine because so much is new and emerging and changing and evolving, you don't even know what your history is or what your future is going to look like because you know the space is changing.
Exactly, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. My husband has a degree in chemistry from Boston University.
Very cool.
Doesn't work in chemistry. He works in tech. And often says that it was working in a lab that like taught him how to problem solve. So it's always and he has threatened going to law school. He's threatened going to get his MBA.
Yeah.
It's so fascinating because like he has learned to knit and he has done like he's also a jack of all trades. And so you talking about all of the things that you do, obviously knowing my husband, this doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's all very interesting. Okay, this is your first podcast for Notes on Infinity.
It is.
I texted Chris Whitaker earlier today to tell him I was talking to you.
Yeah.
He said to say hello.
He is so nice. He said, nice.
He said, I love that book. Say hello for me. I said, I will.
He's so kind. He like was the first person to, actually it was the second blurb that came in, I think. Now I can't remember, but he like was the first person to be in touch with me over Instagram, and I was so starstruck. I like didn't know what to say to him. I was like, how do I talk to this person? I love your books. I don't know what to do. You're reading. And then he sent me, it was so kind. So I knew he was reading, and he sent me like in the middle a passage that he really liked, and was it just like it was something just yes or like exclamation point or something, and that was me.
I love him so much.
I know. It was a moment.
I love that. He says hello. You have not perfected, although you went to Harvard and you seem like the kind of person who's very prepared. I was going to say you've not perfected your elevator pitch for the book yet, but now is your time to workshop it.
Oh, okay. I think it's okay. I do, because people ask what the book is about. And so I do have to tell them. So Notes on Infinity.
When you're like at dinner with your family and you're, what are you working on?
Exactly.
And you're like, Aunt Susie, let me tell you.
If you only knew. Yeah, it is. That is exactly what it is. I was like very recently sidetrack. I was very recently
we love sidetracks.
at a Ruby Tuesday with all of my aunts. I'm from Central Maine, so like in the middle of nowhere. And they're always really excited to get all the updates. And I brought them ARCs, and they were so excited. It was adorable.
Did everybody get the salad bar? I just have this image of going to Ruby Tuesday with my grandmother, and like we all are getting the salad bar. Well, anyway, that's all.
Yes. Anyway, so yes, elevator pitch. Notes on Infinity is about two young Harvard students in chemistry, Jack and Zoe, who are fierce competitors turned collaborators, and they develop a new kind of anti-aging drug, and they drop out, form a startup, and achieve dazzling success. The book is about ambition and betrayal and the things that we do for the people we love.
Love. The very, very beginning of the book, Okay, not actually the very, very beginning of the book. The first chapter, then there's a first chapter. The first chapter of the book says there are two types of students in the first semester of organic chemistry: those who arrive 10 minutes early and sit primly in the second row, notebook out in case the professor lets go of any wisdom before the clock strikes the hour, and those who jog in 4 minutes late, unshowered and unshaven, with no bag and no notebook, and slump into a seat at the end of the aisle. Which one are you?
Oh, I'm.
I love that your face. You like didn't know where I was going with that.
No, I didn't. Unfortunately, I am the first, but I don't like to sit in the front. So I will be sitting in the back, but I will be there really early, and I will have my notebook, and I'll have done all the reading. Yeah, I know.
Overachiever.
I'm embarrassed to say.
You did go to Harvard. It's fine. I know. Were you one of those people who was like, I went to school in Cambridge?
I've gotten called out on that so many times recently. I've been like doing the law school interview rounds, and people are like, oh, like where you meet other admins or you meet other people who are interviewing, and they're like, oh, like where'd you go to school? And I reflexively do like the Boston area. Just makes me sound like more of a jerk.
Yeah, where do you, is
okay.
Is it not shame. It can't be shame, but is it like a weird pride thing? Is it privilege? Is it
I think it's interesting because people's reactions. So when I go home, again, central Maine, like rural, people have weird reactions. Anywhere from, oh, you must be a genius, to, oh, that's such a waste of money, to, oh, that's the seat of like liberal demonhood or whatever. And so on that side of things, like that's why, all the above. But then with people not at home, I think it's because I like, you don't want to seem like you're throwing it in someone's face. And so then you try to not, but that's just as bad.
Yeah. So. I'm asking because I just had a Harvard Business School professor on, and we talk a little bit about not saying Harvard because she talks about being an HBS professor, and I'm like, I have a degree in theater, so it couldn't be farther away from HBS. So I find it very fascinating.
Also, everything at Harvard is acronyms. So like,
oh, funny.
We speak in acronyms all the time, which I think is by nature exclusionary. Like it's creating this inner language that other people don't understand. But which is something that the book tries to grapple with, that sort of thing a little bit, I think.
Yeah. No, the book, obviously, grapples with a lot of things. Among them is a female professor wanting to mentor female students, and that feels like cheating for the student. She's like, wait a minute, am I actually who you want to be mentoring, or are you only mentoring me because I'm a woman? There's so much about the idea of science being tied up in maleness. And I think there's a line in the book that says something like the character of the scientist is inherently male, or far more articulate than that, but something conceptually.
Yes. Thank you.
What does it mean to be a woman in science for you?
Yeah. Wow.
Let me ask a basic, simple question, direct, succinct question. No, I'm sure we could have an entire hour-long conversation about that.
For sure. Yeah. So first of all, I think in the past, I don't even know, 20, 30 years, it has gotten just immeasurably better. Like the change, just from knowing female mentors and professors who came up through 10, 15, 20 years ago, I just think that we're so lucky to have made so much progress. I am lucky that they did the work to make that much progress. And so it's less that, I said this the other day to someone, it's less that like women aren't invited to the party anymore. It's like women are now invited, but there are still people at the party who were there before women got invited, and they're not crazy about the change. And so I think that there's still can be some like tension. And then also I don't think I know, women are still a minority in these spaces. And that's just a fact, right? And that changes the way that the spaces feel. And then also, as you mentioned, and I talk about quite a bit in the book, I think that the culture of science is just super male. Like it's very much bedraggled, like work all the time, no social skills. Like you don't do anything but your science because you're a genius and you are allowed to do that. And I think that's just not something that women have to be apt like socially, and they have to look a certain way, and they have to, in general, act a certain way, and they don't get to go be the mad scientist off like in the lab all day and all night. And so it's a culture thing. It's funny, what my roommate and I were talking the other day about the way that PI, principal investigators, the people that run labs at like Harvard or MIT or whatever, dress, and how most male PIs are like super casual, and most female PIs, at least in my experience, are like very well dressed and very well put together. And that's just like a silly little example, but I do think that it is illustrative of there is a different set of expectations for women as opposed to
I don't think
men.
that's a silly example at all. No, I mean, it is a day-to-day sort of example, right? We all think about what we're going to wear when we start our day.
Unless you don't have to. Unless you don't have to think about it.
Well, no.
Cares.
I mean, we all have to put some clothes on.
Yeah, no, true.
And so some people have to think about it and some people don't. I guess is really yeah.
So
interesting.
Yeah.
Is there anything that like to a lay person you would be like, I would love every person to know this about a lab, or about being a woman in a lab, or about, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't, it's such a random question, but getting a little bit of insight to your experience. And I don't mean to simplify it at all.
So I guess it's sort of anecdote, maybe, that's helpful. So I was really lucky in my lab work. So I did work in a lab at Harvard. I did heterogeneous catalysis. Not that means anything to anyone.
Means literally nothing.
That's fine. I was really lucky. I worked for a incredible female professor and PI who actually, Cynthia Friend, who actually was the first female full professor of chemistry at Harvard. She is amazing scientist, amazing teacher, amazing mentor. I look up to her a lot. And so I guess one like tidbit of that is that my PI, so like one, as it were, generation removed, was the first full professor of chemistry at Harvard. So it just has not been that long.
Right.
I think is the takeaway point there.
I think that's like exactly what I don't say that's what I was hoping for. That's so ridiculous, but that was absolutely, I assumed there was something like that to share.
Yeah. And then I guess second point on that is that for that reason, I think I had a great experience. I had lots of women mentors, like postdocs and PhD students who were women in the lab. Like it didn't feel like a gender issue at all for me. But one of my close friends did work in a lab in which she was the only woman, period. Like she was an undergrad, but there were no women PhD students and no women postdocs, and the PI was a man. And so there is this incredible photo. It wasn't a big deal, but there's this incredible photo of the lab, and it's 20 men. And
wow.
And so like that also is still a thing.
Yeah. Is 20-ish a common number too? Is that the size of a lab?
Oh, it totally varies. Some labs are like 5 people. Some labs are like 40 people. It depends on how much work is being done, how much funding is getting drawn in.
What you're doing. Yeah.
What you're doing. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Speaking of what you're doing, in Notes on Infinity.
Very nice. Is it pretty? I love the cover.
It's so pretty. I know. They, as you said in your elevator pitch, they come up with an anti-aging drug. And in turn, there's a lot of talk about death and what mortality and aging means. And there's something very interesting about the concept of death being everybody's thing that pops up in the book, and how nature is just trying to kill everybody every day.
Yeah.
What was that like? Did writing the book just give you an existential crisis every day?
Maybe would put it like, maybe I was already having an existential crisis.
Fair, right. Were you working through an existential crisis?
I was working through something. Yeah, I don't need therapy. I just write. I don't know. But did the book give me an existential crisis? I don't think a book gave me an existential crisis for that reason. It maybe for other reasons, but I think that everybody thinks a decent amount about dying and death. I have had quite a few family members, like unluckily, or I guess luckily, that I have a big extended family who I'm very close to, pass like in the past, I don't know, 5-10 years. Mm-hmm. And so I've thought a lot about death like everybody else. And then also I think that it's becoming more and more of a thing in the science space, this sort of line of longevity research. It's the science space and the pseudoscience space. So like this line of longevity research, and then also of like longevity behavior that like we should, things you should be like, supplements you should be taking or exercise you should be doing or whatever.
Yeah.
So I was really interested in it in that sense. But yeah, no, I think I only had a normal amount of existential crisis at the time.
Got it. Totally. Fully understand. Did writing the book reframe your understanding or your feelings about mortality?
One of the things that I was thinking about a lot as I was writing was I was interested in writing about a sort of quest for immortality because it's a very old story. And I wanted to play with a very old story with a very new framework or new setting. So like biotech is kind of perhaps as shiny and modern as you can get. And then this very old Gilgamesh or like Nicholas Flamel, like Philosopher's Stone type thing, right, is very ancient, feels very mythological. And so I was really interested in exploring that. But then I was also really interested in it because I wanted to think about the different ways that we pursue immortality. One of those in the book is obviously literally, like we're trying to live forever, but the other is through legacy, right? Like when you are a scientist and you discover something that changes the way we understand biology, particularly like human biology, you've changed the world, like you've changed the course of humanity. And that is also a form of immortality and something that I think at least one of the characters in the book, I won't, you're very anti-spoiler, I won't name names. At least one of the characters in the book is very attached to that idea of having changed the world and having that kind of immortality. And so, I don't know, did it change? Of course it changed the way I thought about mortality because I spent so much time like thinking about kind of these interwoven, like living forever literally versus living forever through your legacy versus et cetera, et cetera. How punchy, like, and now I'm okay with dying. But I didn't think a lot
of that have been nice.
Yeah, that would have been great. That would have been great, but I did not expect that to happen.
Yeah, that's fair. Honestly, if our expectations are met, that's all that really matters. And that was not the thought. What would you want your legacy to be?
Oh gosh. It's funny. I like write this character who's really obsessed with legacy, but I care a lot more about people who are alive when I'm alive. Like I care a lot more about impacting people who are in front of me than I do about like down the line, like having.
You want to know you're having an impact on them.
Yeah, that makes it sound really selfish. But I don't know. I don't think that. So obviously I'm a writer. I'm like trying to be a writer. I really want to reach people with my work. I really want my work to affect people in some way. But it has never even crossed my mind that like people will keep reading my stuff after I'm dead. Like I will be lucky if people are still reading Notes on Infinity in 3 years. So
that's totally
and that will be
fair.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
No, I appreciate that mentality. I think I was just having a conversation with an author earlier today about living in the present. And I think that is the nucleus of that, right? Like you just want people to read your work. Yeah. And hopefully that's while you're alive so that they can tell you how great it is.
Yeah, because that is all please validate me. That's really what this is about.
Exactly. It had me thinking a lot about mortality, reading the book, and just thinking about without an end, what would we be? Mm-hmm. And is mortality the defining variable of humanity? Mm-hmm. Those are existential questions. They're not, you know.
So it's really interesting. I had this conversation with a professor. So when I was a sophomore in college, I went and met with this really famous biology professor at Harvard. He's very old. And I asked him, like, what would you be working on now if you were a young scientist? Essentially, what do you think the sort of next big thing is, as it were?
What an interesting question.
And he said, thank you. And he said, I would be trying to figure out what it is that makes us human. And he meant that in the context of CRISPR, so gene editing. He was really like concerned that now that we can alter what we are biologically, we figure out what it is that we care about and that makes us what we are in order to not accidentally lose that through gene editing. And I was like floored by that conversation. And I think that applies to a lot of cutting edge tech right now, and gene editing included, but also like artificial intelligence, also longevity and anti-aging. And that was the idea that I was trying to get at with what if we don't die anymore? Are we still human? Are we human in a different way? Are we not human at all? Are we human in the same way? Like maybe it doesn't matter. I don't have any answer to that question. I don't know that we could have an answer to that question unless it happened. But I do think that it is like both interesting and also perhaps important if these kinds of drugs are something that we do develop in the future. And I make no statement. I don't work in the space. Like the science is fiction. It's possible.
Yeah. And it's funny because one of my next bullet points to talk to you about is the concept of what we value being human. And I wrote in parentheses, page 64. And I just turned to it because I was like, is this exactly what we're talking about right now? And in fact, it is exactly what right now. Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting. But yeah, it had me thinking a lot about all of these things.
Yeah.
There is something important I want to talk to you about. Jack, the character, doesn't like the film When Harry Met Sally.
Yeah.
Is that true for you?
Oh,
and
I have.
Be honest. I want to hear all the things. This is a safe space. I will not hang up on you.
Okay. Is there anything I should know about your relationship with it?
No. If this was You've Got Mail, we'd have a different conversation. But When Harry Met Sally, I'm just very curious about.
Okay.
I'll still really like you.
So that's great. Thank you. I feel really safe. I have a good friend and he and I have a book club actually, except the book club is like very expansive and it includes movies and albums also. And I had watched.
What the hell kind of book club is that? That's not a book club.
It started as a book club and then it like became it's the fun kind. No, I had watched Annie Hall and was like, oh, like you gotta watch this movie. And he was like, you gotta watch When Harry Met Sally. And then of course when I watched When Harry Met Sally, I was like, this is just like Annie Hall but different. And so anyway, so we have this, but it's like his favorite movie. And so we had this argument about it because here's what I don't like about this film. Can I spoil When Harry Met Sally on this podcast? Okay.
Well, I think you can't because who can spoil the movie? Yes, you could share whatever you want about When Harry Met Sally.
Okay. First of all, I love the movie. Like I loved watching the movie and I have this like star rating for things, for everything, for movies and books, etc. Okay. It's 0 stars, 1 star, or 2 stars. 0 stars is I consumed this thing. 1 star is I thought it was good and I might recommend it to someone. And 2 stars is it made me like, I was like, this is like what art should be. And it's 2 stars. Like I really loved the movie. However, the scene where they sleep together, afterwards, she is like simpering up at Sally is like simpering up at Harry. And Harry, there's the iconic still of Harry's like laying in bed, like looking at the ceiling. And she's, oh, like, I love you. I was so angry at that scene because it felt so genuinely out of character for Sally, one. And two, she knew there's a whole bit of dialogue about men hate like after you have sex, like men don't want to sleep with you, like sleep,
they don't
actually
cuddle,
sleep with you. And that's your problem is like, you don't understand that or whatever. Like they have this, I think it's on the plane. They have this conversation. And so she knows what he's thinking and she's still all pathetic. It enraged me. And so that's
fair. This is so fair.
So that's my critique of When Harry Met Sally.
Okay.
But Jack's critique of When Harry Met Sally.
I don't care about Jack's critique about Jack's critique about When Harry Met Sally.
I think there's a reason that movie gets referenced. To not spoil anything.
My least favorite thing is someone telling me they have strong feelings about something and then not being able to articulate those feelings. So I have whatever feelings that you have, and the fact that you were able to share them with me is all that matters, and I thank you for that.
I hope I was convincing.
It doesn't make any. It's so infuriating to watch a character do something that is so out of the realm of what the storyteller has been telling you all along.
Yes. And okay, maybe it's like love gets the best of all of it. I don't know. But like I was not impressed.
Interesting. It wouldn't surprise me if somebody had a counter argument. So we'll hold space for the counter argument of why Sally
Uh-huh.
maybe did that what she did.
Yeah. Feel free to like roast me in the comments or
Right.
however this works.
Send an email, however you want it to be.
Message me I'm on Instagram at Austin Taylor Writes, and I would be so happy to argue with someone.
What's hilarious is I so wish my husband was on this call with us because he studied chemistry, but also loves When Harry Met Sally. So as soon as we hang up, I'm going to pitch this to him and I'm going to see what he says. I should record his response.
Please,
so funny.
Or at least tell me what he said. Yeah.
Were you a too serious kid?
Too serious, almost definitely.
That comes up in the book, the concept of being a too serious kid.
Yeah. I think my parents read me a lot of Edgar Allan Poe when I was really young. And I think that might have ruined me early.
Oh my God. Okay. I wonder why I'm fascinated with death and mortality.
Yeah. No, that was meant to be funny, but is also true. No, but I do think I was very serious and very quiet and very introverted and very 10 going on 30. So yeah, I think that line is about Zoe being a too serious kid. I think that she gets that from me, as it were. Comes by it rightly.
There are a series of questions that come up in the book about learning about other people. I can't remember if it was the context of being on a date or something, but one of them is, how does your mind work? How would you say your mind works?
I don't know. I wish I could tell you. Well, but I think that's one of those things that you can't really ever know, even about yourself, because you have no point of comparison. You don't. I can't get inside your head, so I don't know.
And I guess
it's really weird in here.
If there's not like a rubric of like, oh, are you a ruminator, or oh, are you an overthinker, or do you?
Yeah.
I don't know. Ruminating and overthinking are versions of the same thing. So I think we can start to see how my brain works.
We're getting somewhere with you.
Let me overthink about this for a minute.
No, but I think that line is in the context of, it's not a date, but it feels like a date. And I think that when you're falling in love with someone, you feel like you know how their mind works. Mm-hmm. And maybe you don't.
Another one of these questions is, what do you believe in?
Mm-hmm. Are you asking me?
Yes.
Oh. Oh God.
And what's so fascinating to me is that is so broad. Right? It's like, talk about women in science. I'm like, what the hell kind of questions am I asking you?
How am I doing?
No, you're doing great. It's so funny because I'm usually the one who comes in and I'm like, there's this one random, very specific thing that I want to talk to you about. And meanwhile, here I am, like, this really broad, open-ended topic.
Run with it.
I find it interesting, like, as a concept, asking someone, what do you believe in? Or and I think that could be interpreted in a lot of different ways, right? Mm-hmm. Like, where are your morals? Mm-hmm. What is important to you?
Yeah.
What do you stand for? That's how I interpret the question, less so like Santa Claus.
Right.
Which I guess some people might.
Yeah. So I think, again, these two characters are like getting to know each other they feel like they're getting to know each other very quickly, as you do when you
are we, you and I.
Yeah. Yeah. We're tight.
But that's like sort of my point, right?
Yeah.
Like we're 40 minutes into our conversation and like getting into the meat and potatoes of what the meaning of life is and what are you, right? Like that's part of what I find so it's like getting into it.
Yeah. I think the characters really believe in what they're doing. And I think that is like, they believe in science. There are people so I couldn't have been a scientist. Like I studied chemistry. I really liked it, but I couldn't have been a lab scientist. And maybe your husband has the same experience because like, I think to be a good lab scientist, you have to love what you're doing and you have to believe that like you're getting somewhere, believe in getting there first. And like, discovering something new and laying like I've heard scientists talk about like how just profound it is to them to know something that no one has known before and to contribute that to the body of human knowledge. And I can conceptualize how that would be profound. Like I can understand that would be profound for someone, but it's not for me. But what's profound for me is like reading or consuming art that like makes me feel human or makes me recognize my humanity in something else, and making art that makes me feel human or makes me feel like I'm communicating something about the human experience. And so I guess, what do you believe in? I'm getting closer here to like maybe what someone would call passion, but I think taking passion to a more existential level, you end up at belief maybe.
Interesting. Is there like something in between, do you think?
In between passion
and belief, right?
I don't know. Maybe there's a spectrum.
I don't know. No, I like never really thought about it in that way. I think that's super interesting. To pursue a passion so hard and deeply that like it turns into something that you believe in.
Yeah.
And like
you do anything for it at that point.
Right.
It's something that the characters, of course, grapple with.
Yeah. Speaking of grappling with, there's the question of, or the frustration that people aren't asking the quote big questions anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are some of the big questions to you? What does that mean? Or what are some big questions that you have?
So what I mean by that in particular is that science, and this is again one of the reasons why I couldn't have been a scientist, is like science now, because it's so specialized, because we've made so much progress that in order to do anything, to make any progress, you have to go into a niche inside of a niche inside of a niche inside of a niche. And you're working on like this one membrane protein in this one cell type, and you want to figure out like how it folds differently in different situations. And that might have some really broad application that we don't know about yet.
Sure.
But like the research itself,
I live with and be like, what the hell is that for? What is that?
We don't know. Maybe it does something, maybe it doesn't, but like you've understood more about that thing, and like that abstractly has value. So like when Zoe and Jack are like, no one's asking the big questions, they're like, we want to work on curing death, or like we want to work on like in the sort of cowboy glory days of science when we were like figuring out the structure of DNA.
Right,
and
the
like
world is round.
Right, yeah, but these are like really big things, and they're really like earth like paradigm shifting. If you want to take some like Kuhn theory of scientific revolutions, maybe is the book, but like he has this thing that he talks. Yeah, he talks about like how science is like little itty bitty steps, and then all of a sudden it's one thing, and it's like that just blows up everything, and we have this new whole idea of ourselves, right?
Right.
And so the big questions are like those big: can we not die? Or what is it that makes us human? Like these are the sort of big questions that I think are interesting. I'm interested in.
What is it that makes us human? That was something that you'd said a scientist that you had met.
Exactly.
Asked.
Yeah.
Do you have one of those big questions on the page, or that you like? I don't know. What's a big question for you? And it could. I guess it doesn't. Maybe it's all put in the book.
Yeah, that's all I got. I've been thinking a lot about. I told you that I am interested in working on artificial intelligence, and so I have been thinking a lot about what is art, what makes art. And
that's such a great big question.
Yeah.
I love that.
To me, that has a lot to do with what makes us human. And so I don't think it's divorced, but I think it's a really important question, especially as we are able to produce things that look like human-made art that were not made by humans. I think we need to, what does that mean? Is that art anymore? So
Oh, such a good question. Yes. I'm glad I forced you to ask something. So this episode is out in June, which is Pride Month, of course.
Yes. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride. What does it mean? What does allyship mean to you? What does it mean to be a good ally?
Not to be a downer, but I have been thinking a lot about how at a time like this, when marginalized communities, especially the LGBTQ plus community, are having their rights threatened, it is more important than ever for people who have privilege to speak up. And so I think to me, being an ally means being that person who speaks up. And then also, I think notes understanding is a lot about fitting in or not fitting in at a place like Harvard. And I think that it is really important that we all work to make sure that those spaces and similar spaces are safe and welcoming for everybody all the time.
I love that. Thank you. I suddenly am like, asking this question is very, so what are you going to do for us, huh?
Oh, no, not at all. Please.
The book touches on what it means to be in the fringes, the kids who are on the edges of things, the angry kids, the hungry kids, the potheads. And I think so much of the book, too, is about being seen. You were an overachiever. You are an overachiever. You were the early bird to class. But I think even still, there's value in being seen. Was there someone in your life that was formative in seeing you?
Oh, that's a great question. So when I got to Harvard, I was an overachiever, but I also felt very out of place. I grew up in a place that's very different. Like, I write about the place that I grew up in, rural central Maine, and I had a lot of privilege, but I also grew up in rural central Maine. I went to public school, and when I got to Harvard, it felt like everybody else already knew each other. They already knew how to exist in that space. They already knew like what levers to pull to get the things that they wanted. And I didn't know anyone. I didn't know how to navigate, etc. And so I spent a lot of my freshman year thinking that I just didn't belong, feeling there was something like wrong with me. I was pretty depressed. I didn't have any friends. And then at the end of my freshman year, I met someone this is like such a weird, it doesn't exist anymore, but you used to be able to work at Harvard cleaning dorms. It was called dorm crew. And I'm being totally serious, and you would like
I love that you say, hold on. I love that you say used to as though you went to school there decades ago.
No, but listen, it's gone now. They don't have dorm crew anymore.
Oh, I thought this myth stopped just before you got there. And I'm like, girl, you're so young.
Oh, I'm old. I'm almost 26.
Bye. Okay,
I feel old.
Back in the day, they used to have dorm crew.
Right. In my day at Harvard, it ain't what it used to be, but they used to have dorm crew. And so this was this job that you could hold, and people did it because it paid pretty well, but you literally scrubbed freshman dorm toilets during the year. And then at the end of the year, there's this special week or 2 week long thing where you clean the freshman dorms because Harvard Reunions houses alum in the freshman dorms as like a throwback. Let's all live for a week where we like got drunk as 18-year-olds. Not for me. Anyway, people do this. So they have to clean the dorms in this like very short amount of time. So a bunch of Harvard students get paid $20 an hour, which was a lot to me at the time, to like scrub disgusting. Like if you've never been in college dorms after college freshmen have left them, like it's a level of gross that you wouldn't comprehend. Like the things that I found in the dorms. Anyway, and I met this guy. So that's a whole backstory. Yeah. But I met this guy while I was doing this, and it was like I suddenly felt seen. I was like, oh my God, like this person is so much like me. We didn't really have that similar backgrounds. He had gone to a private high school, but like public school before that, and then like had been on scholarship at the high school. He was from Pennsylvania, but it just felt like he also felt like an outsider. And so we both were a little bit like, oh, like this other person also doesn't fit in. It's like stuck together. And we became really, really, he was like my first, I think, real friend at Harvard. And we became really close, and we're still really close. In fact, we're so close that he visits my parents without me sometimes.
Oh my God, I love that.
I know. He's like a sibling now to me. And I genuinely would credit him with like bringing me out of this sort of insular, like I'm all alone at Harvard first year that I had.
Yeah. Oh, what's his name?
His name is Cecil. Shout out to Cecil.
Shout out to Cecil.
If you're listening, I'm gonna make him listen now because he'll be so mortified.
Oh, it's okay. There's no. You just have to clean those dorms. Everything's uphill from there.
Glory days, dorm crew glory days. Yeah. So, thanks, Cecil.
Oh my God, Austin, the fact that you think almost 26 is old. I feel you. I feel you. I feel you. Notes on Infinity. Austin Taylor, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. This is so much fun. You made my first podcast episode so pain-free.
I hope it stays that way. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Just gay weird time.
How are you today?
I'm doing well. I mean, it's so nice to do when Disappoint Me was coming out in the UK. It was sort of January, and so when I was doing afternoon interviews, it was just completely dark or getting dark. But it's amazing because it's now so bright here at 7 p.m. And it doesn't look like it. It's nice and sunny. Sorry, it's such a British opening. For the first thing I talk about is an extensive download on like the circadian cycle.
That's okay. Well, here, I will now talk about a very American thing, a very homosexual thing. Thank you so much for your flexibility today. I can't believe I accidentally scheduled therapy at the same time.
You know what? The perks of being a full-time writer is that I am always free. If I ever tell you, I know, if you ever hear from me that I've got something booked, I'm lying. I just don't want to do it.
That's so funny. I know. You need to start developing some fake things.
Yeah.
So that it could mix in.
Yeah. Well, I think it's like, I don't know, when you're sort of doing new experiences so that you can kind of collect material. So it's like you might say like, oh, I have a sound bath at 5 p.m. I've got my lunchtime aerial yoga. I am not very susceptible to hocus pocus, but I do have lots of friends who are quite susceptible to hocus pocus. And so I hear about these things. And I'm sure maybe there is sort of some grounding in the sound bath having, this relaxing effect on your body. But people will say they're like transformative. It's like, they come out born again. And it's like, babe, a woman just hit a gong.
I wonder what the physiological thing is. Like, is
I'm
it
sure
maybe, well, do people have like, are there like capillaries closer to their skin or something that like the vibrations are actually affecting them in a way that they don't affect you? I don't know.
Yeah, there's something there. Maybe, definitely not something for me to answer.
Right. No. I mean, me either. I'm just making it up. Okay, so you're not susceptible to hocus pocus, but what about things like a tarot card? If someone like pulls something and like tells you something about your life.
So, I don't think the interesting part in that is the hocus pocus. So I don't think that there's sort of like some divine power
right.
determining what card I'm getting. I think what's interesting is what thoughts it provokes in you when you receive that card and the train of thought that follows. So I'm not going to seek a tarot reading. If someone like whips out a pack of tarot cards and offers me a reading, I'm not going to be rude. It's just I'm not going to. They can lay the card in front of me. It's not going to kill me. But I think the interesting
unless it says
is,
it's going to.
I know, but then I'm like, how interesting that is.
Right.
Let's examine these feelings of anxiety I'm having with respect to death.
Right.
I think that's probably the interesting part, right? And I think kind of some of us know it, but I do think there are some real ride or dies for believing in like the divine power influencing those specific cards. And in other areas as well. I say I'm not into hocus pocus, but I'm also from Malaysia. And I think, I'm also Malaysian Chinese. And I think when you grow up in that culture, you have like an inborn belief of things like ghosts. And so I'm like very weirdly on my high horse about things like astrology. And then I go home and hear something and I'm like, it's haunted. I heard a noise in my flat a couple of months ago, and a stack of magazines fell off a chair. I now realize that I think in my tired haze, I knocked the chair that then knocked off the magazines. But my first assumption was there's a ghost. I told my family, they all freaked out. I was sent a long chant I started bargaining with the ghost. I was like, you know what? It's chill, you're here. You know, make yourself at home. Just don't stay too long. And then I described what had happened.
Don't get in the way.
I described the scratching noises to my partner, and he was like, I think you just have like a rat. But my Malaysian Chinese ass was just like, it's a ghost.
Well, there are two things I want to say to that. Thing one, I find it very interesting because what I'm hearing is you say it's like a higher power issue. Like there's not like a higher power situation, but ghost is like not that, right? It's something different.
Maybe.
And the other thing,
but the thing is, I think it's completely irrational. I don't think there's like a logical consistency between why.
Okay, that's fair.
But I think that's just how culture informs our like superstitious beliefs.
I many years ago now dislocated my ankle and fractured my leg in 3 places. What happened was I was taking asthma medicine, and you like inhale, hold your breath, exhale, and then rinse your mouth out. I'd been taking it for so long that I was sort of like in a routine, and I was walking from my bedroom to the bathroom whilst holding my breath. Next thing I knew, I was on the ground, looked up, my foot was facing the wrong way, and I had no idea how I got there, and my face hurt. And my first thought was, I was punched by a ghost.
Yeah, that's my first thought too.
Totally irrational. No reason for me to feel that way. And then I was like, oh no, I just like fell and my head hit the table.
You were punched by a ghost. No, you were punched by a ghost. Let's not deny the facts. The ghost was disturbed, or the ghost had good intentions. The ghost saw you, was like, we're gonna punch that asthma out. You know what those lungs need is a good ass punch. And
oh my God.
You know, it came from a good place, but you were on the floor and the ghost was like, shit, I didn't mean to do that. I better move on. Let's get out of purgatory.
I have to ask, because you've said the word hocus pocus multiple times. What about the movie?
Okay, what is that? Wait, I know that there is a movie. Here I am Googling Hocus Pocus. Oh, I've seen
Bette
that.
Midler, Sarah Jessica Parker, Kathy and Jimmy.
I think I have seen that, but you know, I
queer
tell
canon.
you.
It is culture.
I know.
How old are you? We're taking.
I'm 31.
Okay, I'm a little bit older. I'm 37, but like this should still be a part of your
1993.
Culture,
I was literally in the womb when this came out.
Oh my God, you just made me feel so old.
I think I must have seen it though. Oh wait, no, I'm thinking of the one with the bald witches. Is that the one?
Oh, that's the witches.
Okay, and I think where they all take off their wigs.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
that was supposed to be terrifying to children, the sight of a bald woman.
And you were like, what about it?
Yeah, I'm saying. Yeah, I freshly out of the womb, I was like, the shit I saw in that.
Something about Hocus Pocus. Anyway, I am shocked that this is what we're talking about right now. I had every intention of talking to you about ingrown hairs, because apparently you're the expert.
Where'd you hear that? Who told you?
On Caroline O'Donoghue, former Gaze Reading guest on her podcast.
That was an amazing podcast. I loved recording that. So about a year and a half ago, and she was like, I need to have you on the podcast. And she explained to me what the podcast was, and I was like, okay, well, can I do The Real Housewives? And she was like, no, that we've done that. And I was like, can I do America's Next Top Model? And she was like, no, we've done that. And I was like, okay, well, the only special interest I have left is pimple popping. I watched like maybe 7 to 8 Real Housewives franchises. People are like, what do you have on? I'm like, I've got so much Real Housewives to watch. I'm finding it really hard to schedule like to manage a relationship, friendships, my workload and the Housewives. It was as soon as sort of the finales came, I was like, finally, I'm free. And
at that point, it's like you should just become one.
I know. I do think I am destined for it, I do think, but I'm going to have to sell a lot more books if I'm going to get on that show, which is why what brings me here.
Yes, which is why you're here. Which we'll talk about in a second. Disappoint Me
I love
by
seeing
Nicola
the arts.
Dinan. And this cover is so amazing. I'm obsessed.
I know. I specifically said I wanted a painting of like a tired woman. And a painting of a tired woman is what I received.
It is so good. But before we talk about Disappoint Me, Nicola, what are you reading right now?
Oh, you know what? I'm actually reading my third book. So I'm in the...
That's a great answer.
So yeah, I was like, because actually when it comes to personal reading, I'm interviewing Sean Fay, who's written Love in Exile, which has just come out in the US. I'm interviewing her at a literary festival this weekend. So I just finished that. So I just finished reading that for a second time. And then I'm in this very nice period where I'm sort of in between books. And I'm going to read a book called Colony by Annika Norlin after that. But at the moment, I'm just going to finish my own book because I'm doing edits. I've just finished a really big edit of it. This is the third one after Disappoint Me, maybe coming out in a couple of years. And yeah, it's just sort of, it's kind of nice to read your own work when you feel happy with the draft.
I love it. I also love that you have a pen in your hand as though I've like interrupted you.
Oh, well, the
You're
thing
like,
is like,
fancy seeing you here.
You kind of have. Like, like I was reading it literally
I'm so sorry.
up to the minute that we started this podcast. And as soon as we finish, I'll go back to it.
So really, I'm a distraction. I'm a nice distraction. I'm like giving you a respite.
Yeah. And when you said like, what are you reading now? I mean, I really meant like now.
Right. Like literally right now, pan the computer down. You will see. Let's talk about Disappoint Me.
Yes, I would love to.
Do you have an elevator pitch?
Disappoint Me is about a 30-year-old trans woman named Max who falls down the stairs at a New Year's Eve party, wakes up in hospital, and has the same first thought that we all would, which is, fuck, I need to find a boyfriend. And so she embarks on this journey to throw herself sort of headlong into heteronormativity. And she meets a British Chinese man called Vincent, who initially seems like the vision of an enlightened man, but the novel is told from two perspectives, Max's and also Vincent's, in 2012, more than 10 years before the start of the novel, where we find Vincent in Thailand on his gap year and join him as he embarks on a love affair with a British traveller there. That's probably longer than the standard elevator pitch, but I hope it sort of gets the soul of the novel across.
No, it really does. It's so funny. I didn't even think about the relationship between my story of did I get punched by a ghost and the beginning of Disappoint Me. Like, of course, that could have been the same thought that Maxie had.
Yeah.
Waking up in the hospital room. Was I punched by a ghost? Who pushed me down the stairs?
She's like, hey, a ghost pushed me down the stairs. But actually, I think in reality, I think Max is such a so prone to self-blame and putting so much of her life's disappointments, or painting so many of her life's disappointments as personal failures that she would never think it was a ghost. She'd like apologize to the ghost, you know? Right. It's like, I think Max...
Was I in your way, ghost? Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Excuse me. Don't mind me.
Right. I don't want to take up space.
And my enormous corporeal form. But, you know, I think she's in a place where she, is so prone to self-blame. And we see her across the novel to maybe take responsibility for things that she shouldn't. And so I think the book sort of tackles all these complex questions that we face as we move into what feels like the true adulthood, not the adulthood that feels, it's like, oh, you're 18, you're an adult. No. Right. It's like the true adulthood. And I think, you know, it's interesting that I'm writing books in my 30s that are still maybe considered coming of age books. But I also kind of see these sort of like Bildungsromans as like an eternal thing. There's sort of, you know, I'm doomed to always come of age. I'm going to be turning 50 and I'm like, oh, coming of age again.
Well, it's true. And I say all the time on this podcast, you know, what does it mean to be an adult? right?
Yeah.
And in my opinion, as long as there is someone older than us, we won't feel like one, right? Because we will always look to the next generation. And so in turn, we will sort of always be coming of age.
Yeah. And I think, to become an adult is to, in some ways, realize the ways in which you're still a child. I think we kind of embark on our early 20s having a real sense of, I'm a big girl now. Like, I'm doing all of these things. I have a job, and you feel a great sense of maybe like newfound independence, or you've just gone off to college or university, and you feel empowered. But then, you encounter these things in adulthood which bring you back to the darkest places of your childhood. You enter into relationships which trigger you in ways that are reminiscent of those deepest wounds that you experienced as a child. And and you also realize and see it happen in your parents as well. You see the ways in which your parents are brought back to their childhood, the ways in which your parents are triggered. And you realize that actually to be an adult is to have one foot in the age you are and one foot in your past. And it feels like sort of an inevitable condition is to be in that awkward splits. And so we find ourselves confronted with the past and it being so uncomfortable because it instills in us a fear that we haven't actually changed as much as we have, or it makes it feel too close for comfort that, oh, wow, I used to express myself in that way. There was a time in which I didn't have like a female hormonal profile, all of that stuff.
And then there's a flip side too of someone giving themselves permission to change, permission to be different, permission to reconcile the worst things that you've ever done in your life in 2012.
Yeah.
Right. Something else that I love so much about the book that we haven't talked about is how funny it is and how relatable it is. And I don't want you to feel any sort of way by me saying this, but it is giving me Dolly Alderton.
Oh, that's sweet.
Well, there's something about her book Ghosts in particular that is my favorite kind of book, and in turn so is Disappoint Me, where it is so readable, but it is still literary. The sentences are still beautiful, and it gives you so much to talk about, and yet you can also devour it. Right. So it is a pleasure to read, but it is not just cotton candy. It's, there's a lot of substance there.
Yeah. I think, thank you so much. I think when I think about what I like to write, I think I don't want the complexity to necessarily be in the journey to understand what I'm saying. Although, I think sometimes the meaning of what I'm saying might take a little bit of time to untangle, but I don't want that meaning to be unclear.
At a sentence level.
I think it might,
right.
At a sentence level. I think.
Yeah,
and so
no, I understand.
I am kind of motivated by clarity, and I think it is maybe kind of reflected of my background. Like when I went to university, I studied sciences, and when I graduated, I became a lawyer and practiced as a lawyer until 2021. And so I have just worked and always studied in fields of which you can't no hocus pocus with language. You just have to be incredibly direct because there's huge consequences to a loss of meaning. And I think my writing as seriously, and I think my editors know it's something I really care about. And so even if I am using flowery language, I do try to have it be accessible and for the complexity to largely be within the ideas. That's not to say I don't like books that are more experimental with languages, that I don't like poetry. I do like all those things, but it's just in terms of when I'm writing, I want the meaning to be clear, and I want the points of discussion that follow from the novel to be centered on these sort of human themes. I don't want it to be fussing about what does this sentence mean. I want it to be, would you forgive Vincent? That's what's interesting to me, and it's what I ask people when I meet readers of the book. But I'm so glad you thought it was funny. I think that's also that's such a It's such a compliment to make people laugh.
Well, it's fun. It's just it's relatable, right? You could live in this world, and that I think is important, right? To as a reader, right? Like I read East of Eden because it's one of my husband's favorite books, and
It's one of my favorite books.
Oh, really? How fun! But at a sentence level,
you hated it.
Well, each sentence is delicious. It is beautiful, but not dissimilar from Shakespeare. I was like, Steinbeck, what are you trying to tell me? You took 4 pages to say one thing, you know, and that has its time and place. And frankly, at that time, you know, no one had anything better to do than read all of that. Yes. But for me, my
You're
favorite
like calling
books...
Steinbeck, could I get the TLDR on East of Eden, please?
Oh my God, I know. So, but I love that that's one of your favorite books too. How fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I love Steinbeck. I love Grapes of Wrath and I love East of Eden. But East of Eden in particular, I just thought it had the perfect ending.
Yeah, no, the ending is beautiful.
It was like, I think about it all the time. And I think I quite like sort of the morality that's often baked into 19th century novels. You see it in Dostoevsky as well. It's not really how I write. I think I sort of try to live in the morally ambiguous. I think maybe I still try to handle moral questions with a sense of openness, even if there's sort of an idea of what my view might be. But I always liked sort of the clear sense of I was kind of good and evil in those books.
Right. It's like quite literal.
Yeah, exactly.
This is what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, as my guest gay reader, I ask everybody this question the last few months. This is a time to amplify people around us that we love. You are not allowed to say your partner. If you were to die tomorrow, who would you enlist to delete the search history on your computer?
Oh my God, my friend Leo. I trust. The thing is, like, so I think he would gossip about, he would basically, I think, he would laugh. He would gossip a bit about it. And I think that's how, I want people to be laughing at my funeral. I wouldn't even mind if it was played at my funeral. I think I Google pretty funny shit, like nothing that incriminating. And I also think, you know, going back to this idea of writing comedy, like the best thing you can do to write funny things is to be able to laugh at yourself. I think like there's so much about my book that parallels my own life. And so if you can't laugh at yourself, you can't make fun of it. And so I would trust him because I know he'd make fun of it. And I think he'd make fun of it. He'd gossip about it. He'd laugh about it. And that's how I want to be remembered.
We love Leo. Thank you, Leo, for being the one who we would turn to. Nicola, so nice to connect and meet you. Thank you for everything. Everyone go get your copy of Disappoint Me by Nicola Dinan out now, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
Austin and Nicola, thank you so much for being here. Everyone, thank you so much for joining me. I will be back again tomorrow to celebrate the incredible legacy of Edmund White, and then back to our regularly scheduled programming next week. Thank you all. Have a wonderful rest of your day.